I'd like to welcome you to our regular iSpring webinar series, where we discuss e-learning trends, share tips and tricks, and highlight client success stories. All right. Okay. My name is Katie. I'm an account manager at iSpring and today's moderator for you. Yeah, so today's webinar is called AI in Education, Practical Strategies for Learning Design and Development. And let me introduce you to our presenter today. He is our valuable guest, Lyndon Walker. Lyndon is an experienced academic and researcher with more than 20 years of lecturing experience. Hi, Lyndon. How's it going today?
Hi, great to see so many people coming and joining us today.
Right, yeah. Can't wait to get started, right? And it's time for Lyndon to take your stage.
Great, thanks very much. Let's
Yeah.
get some slides shared. Wonderful. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Saw a couple of familiar names scrolling past in the chat. The Today's going to be AI focused. It's for those of you that came to my flipped classroom webinars. I think I'm actually even more passionate about AI in education than I'm about flipped classroom. Uh, got a pretty ambitious agenda to try and get through today. So this is going to be very much a breadth rather than depth. There's going to be a whole lot of stuff here. It is ambitious. I'm going to probably go fairly quickly. As Katie mentioned, this is being recorded and the slides will be available to you as well. So don't worry about having to rapidly write down URLs or names of tools or anything like that. You'll have access to the slides and the recording. So today, going to start off just a little bit of getting to know each other. Anytime I'm presenting a webinar, I always like to get to know the audience and in particular find out what things you want to know about today, because this is very much about me trying to inform you the best that I can. We're going to do a little bit of a look at AI terminology. We're going to have quite a lot of time looking at a whole lot of different AI tools. Some of them are general, some of them are very specific. We're going to look at how to use these tools better, particularly when it comes to writing prompts. And we're also going to look at safe and sensible use. How's the best safe and sensible ways that we can be using AI tools? What are some of the things we need to look out for? We're going to briefly look at AI detection. We've got AI, some more tools that are going to be specifically about research. Going to give a couple of examples of AI that's used in the iSpring products. And we're going to finish off with some further resources and some people to follow. The not covering, I mean, there's lots and lots. Some of the slides I have in here, I could speak for an hour on just that single slide. And I'm not going to, but I could. So some of the things that we're not covering, we're not looking at student use of AI, we're not looking at assessment, we're not looking at chatbots and teaching delivery type tools. So there's a lot more about large language models, things that we might use for course design, for course planning, things like that. And it's also going to be a bit of a gauge of where people are at. Certainly any of those things, if you are interested, do mention in the chat because I'm certainly very happy to be delivering more of these webinars looking at other different facets of AI. Okay, great to see names and places coming past, and it's almost like you're kind of reading ahead of me because the first thing I do like to do is find out where you're from, and I can see we've got a bit of a spread, Australia, New Zealand, and Asia. And in particular, what would you like to learn today? So if you can whack something there in the chat. Throughout, I'll definitely be doing my very best to be keeping track of the chat. I have 3 monitors in front of me, so there's a fair bit going on, but I tend to try and have chat right there in front. And so we'll try and kind of capture questions. When you ask questions, if it is something that I can answer as I go, I will do that. If it's something where maybe it's a little bit might take a little bit longer to kind of try and explain, then I will get our moderators to flag that as something to come back to at the end. Okay, so there's a number of people local to me here in Melbourne. It was a beautiful day in Melbourne today. So hopefully you got to enjoy a little bit of sunshine through the day, and hopefully the rest of you that are joining somewhere nice as well. So I've seen a couple of comments about prompting. We'll definitely be looking at that. Certainly challenges as well. So insights into how students use AI. Unfortunately, we're not going to have time. I think I'm already being pretty ambitious with my 42 slides. Some of them I'm going to be rattling through pretty quickly. So certainly another day coming back and looking at co-learning with students, how students use AI, how you can use AI as part of your teaching with students. I love all of that stuff. And so definitely on another day, we can come back and have a look at that. And some of what we're going to look at today, some of the tools like ChatGPT, even though that's not the main topic, hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit of insight, maybe some ideas of, oh, actually some of the things I'm describing could be things that you could then translate into the teaching delivery. Okay, if you haven't quite finished typing, do continue. I will see it coming through. So just a little bit about me. I've been involved in education for more than 20 years, particularly in higher education. So I was a senior lecturer, deputy head of department in statistics, but I've also been involved with teaching and researching statistics, finance, education, which has spanned school, vocational, and higher education, even a little bit of sneaky sociology in there. I live in Australia, but I'm originally from New Zealand. I've won a number of different teaching awards, and currently I'm at the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners. So I'm looking at better ways of us training our GPs that in other countries you might know as family physicians or primary care doctors. In this past year, I've been doing a lot of work about how AI fits into that. So that's some of the context. I'm also a YouTuber, talk a lot about AI, make videos about AI tools, do consulting. I'm on a couple of boards as well. And there on the right, we've got some of the local kangaroos. They actually live at the local school. And then a couple of my family members there in the left. And one of the spots that I like to cycle to here in Melbourne. Okay, so we're going to kick off just a little bit of terminology, just so to make sure what we all kind of on the same page with some of the language that we're going to be using. Before that, though, we're just going to pop up a poll and just get a bit of a feel for the level of experience and knowledge that you have with AI tools. So with these categories, if you kind of imagine, haven't really used anything, only used a little bit, but it's not really a regular part of your work. Okay. Cool. So lots of people there in the middle. They've either tried one or two tools, but it's kind of an occasional thing. We've got a couple of people who haven't really used anything yet. That is definitely all good. We've got quite a few people who have maybe got one or two regular tools they use, and they know the basics, and some chunk of people who use AI tools confidently. So certainly those of you that are more at that expert end, feel free to also be pitching into the chat where you see people asking questions about things. And I really hope that with the spread of people that there's going to be something here for everyone. So certainly some of what I am presenting is going to be more at that, not absolute basics, but kind of basics, but we are going to ramp up into some fancier stuff. And particularly if those of you, if you're only using one or two tools, I didn't actually add up how many tools I'm going to present to you. Definitely 12 or 15 or quite a few. Okay. So just a little bit of terminology. And I've kind of tried to go for non-technical versions, so particularly for the definition of AI, there is more technical versions of these, but I think it's good to just cover off these key terms. I was presenting on AI the other week and just was talking about LLMs, and partway through there was someone that said, "What's an LLM?" So just making sure that we cover these off. So AI, when we're thinking about that, we're thinking about these algorithms, these computer systems and tools that are trying to do these more human thinking style things. So reasoning, problem solving, perception, language, things that are kind of bigger than what we might have been doing, say, 20 years ago with traditional statistics. We need to be a little bit careful though, because there are a lot of products where they say AI, but that was actually just some marketing person, and that wasn't actually someone that's genuinely using something we would call AI. I've definitely seen a lot of those. One particular kind, and one that's going to be really relevant for what we're looking at today, is generative AI. And so that's the set of AI tools where we are producing something. So it could be text, could be images, could be video, could be music, all sorts of things. But particularly, I think for us as educators, text is going to be a big one, and maybe sometimes images as well. And I suspect going into the future, maybe video. Large language models, that's things like ChatGPT. And so these are AI models. They've been trained on a whole lot of text with the goal of them being able to hopefully understand text and to be able to generate text in particularly kind of human-like language. Something we need to look out for, and again, is a term that when we're talking AI has a particular meaning, is a hallucination. And so hallucination is where an AI is giving some wrong or made up information to us. And we've got to be particularly careful because sometimes it can sound pretty legitimate. Okay, so we're going to start off and we're going to be running through some tools. And this is really, I guess, a primer more for those people that haven't been using AI quite as much. And once we've had a look at some tools, then we'll get into some of the prompting, and then we'll get into some of the more research-focused stuff. Okay, so the starting point for a lot of people is going to be ChatGPT or possibly one of the other large language models, which are Claude and Gemini. Gemini is produced by Google, Claude by an organization called Anthropic. All of them look kind of similar. You have a text box, you'll type a request into it, it'll process it, and then it'll try and deliver what you've asked for. And so one of the early things people were using these for was for writing. It can write computer code generally pretty well, and it can write words. So you can ask it to write sentences or paragraphs. If you are maybe a slightly dishonest student, you might get it to write your essay homework for you. And that's going to be discussion for another time. We're talking more about the tools today, but certainly something, even as educators, being aware of what these tools are for what the students might be using. They can summarize. We can give them documents, video, audio, and they can summarize the contents of them. It can be really good for brainstorming. If I'm trying to come up with some ideas, whether it's lists of things, whether it's more of a brainstorm or it's discussion back and forth, then these large language models can be really great for that. It can be good as a critical peer as well. So when you give a large language model a prompt, the more detail you can give them, the better. But if you give it a prompt and say, I want you to act as, maybe it's a supervisor, a mentor, or a professor, or a principal of the school, something like that, and then get it to act as that peer that you're having a discussion with. One of the more recent things that they can do, particularly ChatGPT and Claude, is they can now analyze data as well. If you give it a CSV of data, then you can ask it to do analysis, and you don't even need to be that explicit. And so you could say, here's my data. I want to know about the association between these two variables. And these models are smart enough that they will go, okay, those are numeric variables. You probably want a scatter plot. Probably want a regression. Maybe you want a correlation. And it will go and it will produce it. And so it's now, I mean, me having come from a background in statistics, sometimes a little bit scary that the amount of what these tools can do, sometimes off not a huge amount of prompting. Okay, so those are really the starting point, and so I suspect a lot of you, at the very least, will have heard of these, if not tried them or be using them regularly. Two that you may not have come across, as some of you may have. So one's called Notebook LM. That's also by Google, and Google also has what they call the AI Studio. So Notebook LM is basically built on top of their Gemini engine, and the what it does is you can give it a whole lot of documents or files, and you can then get it to act just on those. And ChatGPT and Claude can now kind of do this, where you can upload files, but Notebook LM is really built around give me a bunch of files. On the free version, it's something like 50. On the paid version, it's even more. And it will work on summarizing just with those. It doesn't try and invent stuff or hallucinate or kind of have those issues of ChatGPT just kind of making some stuff up. And so it's a really nice way if you need to try and summarize or collect information out of a set of documents. And it can work with audio and video as well. The other one that I wanted to mention in there was the Google AI Studio. And whilst it's more for coders, the bit that I wanted to highlight is this bit here, stream real time. And so what this will let you do is this will let you stream your screen into the AI. The AI is basically watching your screen, and you can set it up. And so the nice way of setting it up is you can set it up that it will work with audio. So I will ask it a question and something about my screen, and it will then speak back to me and reply. And so what that's really handy for is, say I'm using maybe a complex piece of software. If I'm trying to use Photoshop or Premiere Pro or something like that, and there's like menus and it's really fiddly, or even if I'm trying to learn something, or if I had students trying to learn something, the AI can see the screen, and so I can ask it about what's happening on the screen. So if I was using Premiere Pro and I said, well, can you tell me how to merge these two video clips together? Then it will look at the screen and then it'll give me a response. The Not always perfect, but pretty good and pretty handy. A couple of questions or comments there around data and giving data away. Definitely going to get to that in a little bit. And if we have time at the end, definitely coming back and talk about some of the ethics and kind of, I guess, socioeconomics and things like that. Okay, so in education, there is a whole lot. And I've picked out these ones that I'm showing you here were picked out somewhat at random. So this is not a recommendation or endorsement of any of these tools, nor is it a critique. These were just picked out at random out of a list of lots and lots of different educational AIs. And I wanted to highlight them for two reasons. One is to highlight that there is very specific education and also a lot of other domains, AIs that people are producing. People are producing lots and lots of these different things. But the second point that I wanted to make is that for quite a lot of tools, and these ones in particular, they are often just built on top of ChatGPT, or sometimes the other large language models. And so what happens is you have what's called an API, or an application programming interface. And that's where you're working with a piece of software, but internally it's talking to another piece of software. So I might log into my education AI that I'm having a go of, and all that's happening is I'm asking it a question, then it's asking ChatGPT the question. And what they will have done is they will have tried to make the prompting and tried to make it really streamlined, but they all you're really doing is just getting ChatGPT with a bit of a wrapper around it. And so sometimes in terms of value for money, it's not great value for money because you could be doing that yourself. And I think we just animated. So there's another one. And so you can see with these, there's quiz creators, there's lesson creators, there's lesson, bottom right, there's lesson planning. So a lot of kind of things that as an educator you would probably find pretty handy. And with a lot of these, it's very much just a lot of them will have free trials. You can get in, you can have a go, see which ones resonate with you. Imaging, for a lot of educators, it's going to be handy either just for filling up your content with interesting images. And so we can see there, the first one is me and another family member, but done in the Ghibli style, which ChatGPT introduced this week. But you may also be using it for content as well. So in medical education, being able to generate both medical images and electronic health records of specific cases where I don't need to go and find someone that has that case and then get permission for their x-rays and for their data. I can generate synthetic ones out of the image generators and out of the large language models instead. So that ability to be able to produce educational material that is going to be that much more flexible and that much more tailored is going to be really, really handy. So I've listed a few there. ChatGPT has only just this week introduced producing the images just within it. And then there's a number of different other ones there. Okay. Next up, we have some tools that you might not think of as AI, but lots of software has realized that this is where everything is heading. Everything is heading in this AI direction. So Microsoft have Copilot. They're starting to integrate it into a lot of their products. Acrobat, if you've been into Acrobat recently, that now has like a little AI assistant in the paid version. So if I have a PDF, I don't even need to go to ChatGPT. I can just hit the AI assistant button and it is going to be able to give me summaries out of the PDF without me having to take it anywhere else. Canva, for those of you that are doing any kind of design work, they've been rolling out more and more AI. And the last two I've flagged there with some exclamation marks because you might not have logged in and tried Notepad or MS Paint before because they are just the most basic built-in Windows tools that you kind of use if you're pretty desperate. And you might not have realized that both of those now have AI in them. Notepad, where you just type and it's text, has AI. Paint has an image creator. It has the removing of backgrounds. It has some other handy stuff. So this is popping up everywhere. And I wanted to highlight that because sometimes you might go, oh, here's a fancy AI tool, but it might actually not be too long until just the tools you already use are going to get some of this functionality. Okay, so William's question, who owns the images, is a very good question. And one of the points that I'm going to be coming up to in just a second is around checking the terms and conditions of a particular tool, because it does vary depending on what tool you use to produce the images. For a reasonable chunk of them, they are more or less saying that you do, but it's something where it's really important to be checking what the terms for whatever tool you're using say. So let's jump in now to looking at some prompting, but before we do, let's look at some safe and sensible use stuff. Okay, so first thing, there was someone made a comment before, are we giving away our data when we upload data to the LLMs? Potentially. So you should never upload any private confidential information. As much as I love these AI tools, as powerful as they are not your friend. They do not have your data's best interests at heart in general. So never uploading. We've got the example there where Samsung had people upload sensitive code. So never want to upload private data. You always want to check the terms and conditions and the privacy policy of the of whatever tool you're using, because that's going to tell you a lot about what's happening to your data. Or if it doesn't, if it's very unclear, to me, that would be a red flag. And for my YouTube channel recently, there's been a few times where I've been testing products, and either they've had some statement of everything you produce with our tool is owned by us for now in perpetuity forever, and any derivative work, and they just have this long clause that's saying anything you do with our tool is ours. So that comes back to that question before about owning the images. With that tool, they had the rights to keep and use and do whatever they liked. Even with the ones that are a bit more considerate around that stuff, we still need to be really careful. And then any tool where it's asking for access to your system or have requiring downloads, you want to be really, really wary. And so we've got that example there. The Disney employee thought he was getting an AI photo tool, but it was just malware, and then all sorts of terrible stuff happened. Okay. Are we having an issue with the slides? Hopefully moderators can check up on that one. So some more safe and sensible use. We don't want to rely on these tools for facts without verifying independently. And so in there I've said don't rely on ChatGPT for facts. It has gotten better. It doesn't hallucinate as much. It does a better job of referencing than it used to. But we've got this example here where there's now people have been using it. They've come up with this term, vegetative electron microscopy, and that wasn't even a thing. And people had just used that without going and checking up. And once that gets going, particularly in published literature, that can be really problematic, because then the next person references the last one. So you want to be really careful about verifying any kind of fact-based stuff. For me, I like getting summarization. I like doing brainstorming. But for something that's very fact-based, I will tend to use one of the research tools that I'm going to present to you a little bit later. And I will also then try and verify with original sources as well. And so again, another example down the bottom there's been a number of cases of lawyers being a bit lazy using ChatGPT and having not real cases, and then looking pretty silly, and in a couple of cases getting disbarred. Okay. So the other one that's come up a few times, we can see on the right there, this was a published article. And you can see the bit that I've highlighted there in yellow, where they've copied and pasted that from ChatGPT. And we can see that because they left in the warning from ChatGPT. Any AI that we're using, really important that we want to have a human at that last step. For me, working in a medical field at the moment, that's doubly important, having that human in there, doing that checking. From an educator's point of view, something that I would recommend is modeling the standard of use and care that you would expect from your learners. In the workplace, you could say the same in terms of your peers. If you're a manager or a principal, someone like that, from your staff. How would I feel if my team were using ChatGPT or one of these other AI tools in the fashion that I'm using it? Well, if I'm happy, great. If it's something that I'd be upset, well, I shouldn't be doing that either. Really setting the standard of use. And really, what I would encourage you to do is think about AI as being a complement and not a replacement. So anyone that's using it, whether it's a learner, whether it's an educator, whether it's a staff member, if they're using it as a crutch, then that's going to be really problematic. If they're using it just as a kind of a supplement or a complement, then you can get a lot more done. It can be very productive. There's some really great tools that can do lots of stuff. Okay, so for prompting, we've got a giant list there. As I said before, you'll get these slides. It's probably maybe a wee bit small on your screen, depending on what screen you're on. And I'm not going to run through all 22 of those, but I just wanted to emphasize that when you are writing a prompt, the more specific you can be, what do I want? Who's it for? Who am I? Audience, style, length, referencing, the more detail you give, the better the output will generally be. Sometimes if you're not happy with the output, you might want to try a few different ways. If you want it to write something and be in your voice, then give it examples. You might upload some articles or some other writing or something that looks like what you want to produce. Another thing that is really valuable is asking, if it's a tool that uses prompting, ask it to write a prompt for you to do the thing that you want to do. One of the imaging tools that I had mentioned earlier on, Leonardo, when I put a prompt in there, I'm normally a bit lazy, and it's really interesting because it will take my prompt, it will rewrite another prompt, and it will turn my one sentence into a paragraph, and it will give all this extra detail on the image that I'm trying to produce. And then I can, if I want to then edit that, I edit their prompt rather than my own prompt. So prompting to get the prompt to get to where you want can be a really good path for being able to get better quality responses, particularly out of the large language models. But most of these principles are really going to apply to any of these AI tools. And then we want to always check what it's producing. Okay, so a couple of key questions or considerations here before we get into detection, and then a whole host more tools. And so first one, particularly for those of you that aren't really using a lot of AI yet, and you want to know how to learn more or how to get better, I would recommend three things. So the first one is just experimenting. Getting in there, most of these have free trials or free tiers to be able to use, and just spending some time experimenting with ChatGPT or with Claude or with Gemini, maybe all three, figure out which one you like the best. So that's going to be one of the best ways of learning, is experimenting. If you're working in a school or a university or somewhere like that, forming a community of practice with other people who are also interested is going to be great, because then you're going to be learning together. And then the other thing I'd recommend is following just a few voices who resonate with you. And at the end, I'm going to give a few recommendations of people who have Substacks or LinkedIn or produce stuff that I think is pretty good. But really just doing a bit of a hunt. You don't need too many, but just a few people that present stuff that resonates with you, maybe fits with the domain that you are working in, and then that is it's going to really help you along as well. Okay, so the next two bullet points, they were sitting as part of the description of the webinar today. So I felt that these were both good ones to try and explicitly address. So if we're thinking about academic integrity and instructional quality, something that's going to be really key is whatever materials you're producing, you want them to still be uniquely yours. And that's where that level of prompting, giving your large language model examples, really making sure it's still your educational resources. You've used this tool to help craft them, but they are yours. And that's really where you see that distinction of well-made content where you wouldn't even know it was from AI versus really sloppy stuff. It looks like it's just a copy and paste mishmash of blogs and things like that. So really thinking carefully about quality, not compromising on quality, and then making sure that it's kind of this is still your teaching materials. You've just used these tools. Depending on the setting you're in, that integrity point of view, you need to think about what are the norms and what are the expectations of where you are. So for me, if I was submitting to a research journal and the research journal said, did you write all of this yourself? And that was their expectation, I would need to make sure I was abiding by that. To them, that would be a breach of integrity that I was using ChatGPT to write an article. Whereas if I just wanted to put something up on my blog, I would be pretty happy if I could produce something that looked good enough out of ChatGPT. It's just going up on the blog. I would probably still flag that I used a large language model to help me. So I'm making sure that I'm honest about that. But the approach and the kind of how much of me and how much of the I might vary a little bit. And then the other question is whether AI can save you time in course design. And I think once you get the handle of the tools, it definitely can. What I like to do is I want to think about the bits of the design that are slow, that are repetitive, and that it would be reasonable for me to be using these tools. So if it was grading, it's very likely a no, not appropriate. It's not going to do a good job. There's going to be privacy and data governance concerns, no good. For me, if I was still teaching statistics, then the first thing I would jump to would be practice material. Practice material, if you want to have enough of it, it takes ages. And just kind of thinking of examples and stuff like that. If I can just say to ChatGPT, can you give me 5 examples of practice questions of normal distribution, calculating probability, then at the very least, it's going to get me going. Really good unlock for getting even better quality from it would be me saying, here's 2 examples I already wrote that I think are really good. Can you write 6 or 8 or 10 more? And then from what it writes, I'll then pick out the best ones and I'll put them together with what I already produced. So by getting it started, giving that little bit of here's what I have already, again, it helps it be more in your voice, and generally kind of a better match to what you're trying to produce. Okay. So just a very, very quick bit on AI detection. And this is kind of, I guess, one of many soapboxes that I get on with regards to AI. And so AI detection, the AI detectors are mostly bad or very bad. There's a lot that are snake oil. Even the ones that are pretty good are not perfect. And particularly their not perfect comes from false positives. And from an education perspective, if you think about being a student and constantly stressed that you're submitting work that is your own and you might get accused of using AI when you didn't even use AI, that's a really, really bad learning experience. So the false positive rates, even on the good ones, if you're dealing with large classes, you're going to be getting some false positives in there. There's a particular bias against non-native speakers. So non-native speakers get flagged, just a combination of the way that they've learned the language, the structure of the writing that they're using, is they are more likely to get flagged in a false positive sense. And so I've got an example here on the right-hand side. That was a piece of my writing. So it was a journal article about social simulation. I uh, wrote that in 15 years ago, maybe. I'm losing track. Long before ChatGPT, long before these large language models were a thing. This was published, I think it's a 2010 article, might even be older. And you can see there that this AI checker said 98.51% sure that it was written by an AI. And I mean, I guess I can take that as a compliment. I write like a robot. Great, cool. If you're writing in an academic passive voice, yeah, sometimes it does look a bit like an AI. But that's really problematic. I played with this particular one. It flagged a Blink-182 song as being written by AI. It flagged all sorts of random stuff as written by AI. It wasn't one of the top tier ones, but it was a reasonable one. For those of you that go, well, don't worry about the detectors, I can tell AI. Unfortunately, you're not quite right either. So you can detect badly used AI, but there's now a number of studies, and I've clipped one there, where they have got domain experts. They have given the material. They've said, find the AI, and the experts could not find the AI. In the study here that I've given as an example, 94% of the AI submissions were not detected, and they got better grades. So that was just one example, but there's an increasing amount of research where people are doing blinded studies, and experts cannot pick out the AI when it's well done. So really, really important. Um, let's flag that question about the images created through AI, because I have there's interesting stuff around that, but it's going to digress us a whole lot, because that is a good, interesting question around the image stuff, Luke. So AI detection, not great from an educator's point of view. And again, this is something for maybe a future session. What really needs to happen is rethinking and changing how you're doing assessment, because you're not going to be able to pick out people using AI. Okay, we are now going to have a look at some research tools. And we are going to rattle through these pretty quickly. This is recorded. You can rewatch. You can slow me down if I start talking too fast. And the slides will be available as well. Okay, so a number of programs, ChatGPT being one of the main ones, have just come out recently with what's called deep research. Deep research is deep in that it searches a whole lot more resources. It takes a lot longer. It's currently only on the top paid plan, so it costs quite a lot. They claim it's as good as a PhD researcher. I don't think it is. It is better than what happened before. So one of the big things with the deep research is that when you ask it for what you want, it comes back with a whole lot of prompting questions back to you. So it works really, really hard to get really specific on what you're after. So we've got the example there. Apologies that it's a little bit blurry, but you can see that it's come back. We asked about this particular thing, and it asks about scope, time frame, topic, sources, format, length. It's gone berserk, asking all sorts of different questions in order to really get the specifics. It's good. Not sure I'd pay $200 a month for it. Gemini, Google Gemini also has a deep research function. Similar, not exactly the same. Nice thing, currently it's free. I found with Google, it'll be free while they test it, and then there'll be a paid tier at some stage, I'd imagine. With both of these, it's nice that it is a lot more transparent with the searching. So it searches, it tells you the sites, and it tells you the things that it's searching. It references much better. We can see here on the left, it says, well, here's the plan. I click start research, and it goes through multiple iterations. It takes a few minutes, so it's a bit slower as well. And as it goes, it started off looking at AI in medical education. Then it started focusing on GPs. I was asking it about AI use in GP training programs. It researched these different sites. Eventually, it gets down to writing quite a detailed report. The report was well referenced. It linked back to all of these, and then even had a list of the articles that it didn't reference. So given that it was free, I think I was maybe a little bit more impressed by the Gemini's deep research instead. The other common one that you come across for people doing research. And so with this research, this could be you for your domain that you're teaching. This could be because you are doing research. This could be about education. Is Perplexity. Perplexity is kind of bridging some of the other research tools I'm going to show you shortly with ChatGPT, where it will write a report, it'll do research. It has its own thing called deep research. Similar kind of vibe, not quite the same, I gather, as ChatGPT's version. It differentiates academic sources better than the other tools do. So it has a better hierarchy of what is good information. It's very good with its referencing, and there's VCs that have put a whole lot of money into it, which they are hopefully putting that money to good use. But I think that gives you a bit of confidence around the effort that's going into it being research focused and research first. If you use Google Scholar, then there is an AI version called Semantic Scholar. Different organizations, not Google's. Has better filters. It's kind of like Google Scholar on steroids. VC is venture capital, so that is investors that invest into private companies. it has summaries that have little tags like highly cited and influential and things like that. You can make a personal page if you are a researcher, just like Google Scholar can. But I actually found Semantic Scholar found some presentations I'd done that Google Scholar didn't have. I mean, there was one in there that I'd forgotten I'd even done. And it has a thing called Semantic Reader, which helps you helps with the reading of the article. You can kind of ask questions about the article. Okay, I did say we were going to go quick. We're going to rattle through these pretty quickly. So SciSpace is one of a number where you can give it a topic or you can give it a research question, and it will do a literature review. It'll go out there, it'll find literature. You can get it to preference open source. You can get it to preference things where you can access the PDFs. It has a co-pilot as well. So once you've got your research articles, it can help you read them. You can highlight a piece, it will explain it to you. Which is really cool. You can upload your own articles and your own PDFs, and it can work with those as well. It has its own deep research. They're using the ChatGPT API for their deep research, but then they're using their own specific prompts to really make it more academic research focused. So that is SciSpace. Elicit, similar kind of thing. You give it a research question, it will go away, it will search for the literature, it'll write a little summary report for you. And again, it's got a whole lot of different filters so you can control for topic and age and type of article and stuff like that. Consensus, similar. Give it a research question, it'll do a literature review. It also has this little consensus meter. So if you're trying to solve a particular thing, then you can ask for the research question. So here I said, does creatine help build muscle? And it will also summarize kind of yes, maybe, no. And so you can get a very quick picture. If you just had some question about something, it'll give you a very quick picture of whether that particular thing might be true, false, otherwise. One last one for those of you that are involved with research. This is called Connected Papers. With this one, it will give you a visual map of how articles reference and are linked to each other. So you can click on one, you can see who's referencing who, you can see how pieces of research are able to link into each other. Okay, so that's a very timely question there about the iSpring suite. So that's what we're going to be jumping into right now. I know that some people have joined via the iSpring mailing list, so you probably know what iSpring is. Some people I know have joined via LinkedIn or from me. And so you may not be familiar. iSpring is a e-learning authoring tool. So if you want to be able to produce e-learning courses, online material, then iSpring is a tool that does that. What is really neat about it is that it works as a being integrated into PowerPoint. So when you install it, you end up with this just extra ribbon that says iSpring Suite and PowerPoint. And so you can imagine you're just building your course in PowerPoint, but you can add video, you can add quizzes, you can add interaction, you can add all sorts of neat stuff, but in a really familiar way. One of the things they have embedded in it is an AI assistant. And so the AI assistant is something that hopefully more tools are going to have, where you can just ask it stuff. How do I do ... And it will give you guidance. And it just makes it really easy when you're learning a new piece of software that you've just got this little AI assistant there and you can ask it stuff and it will just tell you. Because you're working in PowerPoint, you also have Copilot sitting there as well. So in addition to iSpring's AI, you also have Microsoft's AI sitting inside PowerPoint to help you out. iSpring also has an iSpring cloud, and within the cloud, there's some more AI features. So it can do more writing for you. It can write course plans and learning outcomes and content for courses. It can generate quiz questions. If you've got a page of material, you can hit the top right example, generate questions. It will give you quiz questions out of the material that you've put in there. So that's in the cloud part of iSpring, and I see that we've had the pop-up link there for being able to trial iSpring, but that's just some really neat AI features within this particular authoring tool. They are also doing a 2-day workshop, and so if you are interested in iSpring or are already an iSpring user, which I know some people are, then they have this 2-day course where they're going through how to better use AI, and particularly these AI tools within iSpring. Okay, so last section, and we are going to finish probably with one minute to spare. So there's lots of great resources out there. There's lots of great people to follow. We're going to rattle through these really quickly. And again, you'll have access to these slides to be able to come back. Google has a couple of really good free courses about AI safety and generative AI. IBM have one as well. They've put that up on edX. The next one, I think, started yesterday, actually, 8th of April. So both of those, we've got the links there, although you can also Google them up. Just handy free courses, probably more for those of you that aren't using AI much yet, just to get an understanding of what is large language models, what's responsible use, getting all those basics under your belt. One that is pretty good for, I'll say mainly, I was going to say teachers, but actually really any educators. So aiforeducation.io. They are a consultancy, but they have a free course. They offer webinars. If you go to the website, you can kind of see the free information they've got there. So some really nice free stuff. You can see some downloadable resources. Amanda, who runs it, has been running a number of women in AI and women in AI and education, which have been really good, and we definitely encourage you to check that one out. Ethan Mollick is on LinkedIn. He also has a Substack. He's a US business academic who has really, similar to me, got very, very interested in all of this AI stuff. Regularly posts really interesting things. So he's definitely worth a follow on LinkedIn. Bron Eager was actually my PhD student and is now a lecturer and academic. Very interested in AI. She has a free ChatGPT course there. It's perhaps a fraction old now. It's been around for more than a year. But again, just nice, free. Those of you that are at that kind of just learning the stuff, pretty good. Just recently, she also had this book, AI Powered Scholar, come out as well. Something's a wee bit different. Those of you that enjoy podcasts, there's a podcast called Life with Machines. And this is a very philosophical, they ask kind of much bigger questions about the place of machines in our lives and about AI and AI with personalities and things like that. So I've been quite enjoying listening to that, where it's not technical as such. It's more kind of philosophical and how we'll fit in a world with AI. And then one last one, just a teeny bit of self-promotion. So I love AI. I'm doing AI at work, and then on my days off, I'm presenting webinars about AI. And when I'm not doing that, I'm making YouTubes about AI. So my YouTube, just Dr. Lyndon Walker. To find that, there is lots more on AI tools, all of the AI tools I showed you today and many more. I've done demonstrations, I do reviews of other stuff. You can see that one on the top right there, what to do if you're falsely accused of cheating with AI. So a bit of that kind of more kind of not just technical and using the tools, but some of that other bigger picture stuff. I think that cheating with AI ones had like 10,000 views now. So I probably need to update my picture. But yeah, that is in terms of the resources. I did say at the outset that we were going to rattle through, particularly some of that. You'll go out and check on your own time stuff pretty quickly. We have a couple of minutes left for questions. And the one that sprung to mind, I know we've got a few flagged. There was the one about identifying images created through AI. So without going too far down the rabbit hole, the way that the image generation does tend to work is by taking an image and really deconstructing it using algorithms into kind of data and a set of weights that represents the pixels on the screen. And so you can have particular traits within those, which will give you a particular style. It's part of why, until recently, all of those generators really struggled to put words in there because it didn't quite understand what a word was. But one of the quite neat things that some digital artists are now doing is you can actually poison, what they call poison, your AI art or your art. So when you put it up, you can just alter a few pixels in your image, so that when the AI tools go through and trawl the internet and look at portfolios and try and use your data, they misinterpret what they see. The way that they store your image is they are seeing all the little pixels the human eye can't pick up. And so you might have a picture of a sunset, but we just altered a pixel here and here and here and here. And it's like, four wheels. Yeah, okay, this is a truck. It's not a truck at all, but the with the image, it's actually a bit easier. And so some really interesting stuff on AI poisoning. There was a really good Freakonomics podcast about it that you can definitely check out. Early childhood eco have started using Mana. Unfortunately, I haven't seen Mana. That'll be something for me to go and check out. So always nice where I can also learn some things. Can I help coaching senior employees? Yes. I mean, I think you probably need to be a little bit more specific on your question there, quite what you're after. I mean, I think AI as a training tool, or even just as a self-training and self-improvement tool, being able to talk to it, ask it things, and I mean, for maybe someone that is a senior employee, they can do a bit of brainstorming and talking back and forth before they want to socialize an idea with the rest of the senior exec. So I think definitely. Cool. So we've got the question about best practice for prompt statements using the iSpring AI. In general, my experience is that the prompting on any of the text-based AIs, whether it's iSpring, whether it's Claude, whether it's ChatGPT, is all along very similar lines of being very specific. So those details I mentioned earlier. There's a question about AI checking compliance of content with national standards. So this is where I would not assume that your AI, so actually, sorry, I've scrolled back a bit, so I will read this out. Do you have much to do with AI that checks compliance of content to a national standard? So you need to be really careful with that. You should not assume that ChatGPT or whatever model you're doing knows what the national standard is. If I needed to do something like compliance to a national standard, if it was all public information that I was using, and so I didn't have any concerns about uploading things, then I would give the compliance rules, code, standards to Notebook LM or ChatGPT, whatever I'm using, and then do my checking against that. Definitely things like I've had medical people say, "Oh well, ChatGPT was no good," because I asked about Medicare, which is the Australian government subsidisation of healthcare, and it immediately thought I meant Medicare in America, which means something completely different. So never assume for any of that standards stuff that it's going to know what it is. And if you are doing evaluation of things that are kind of private and confidential, you may need to build your own. So that's actually something I didn't really mention in this presentation, is the idea of a kind of locally based or a narrow large language model. So what I might do is at my organization set up my own local large language model that therefore I don't need to worry about sending stuff. I'm not using anyone else's server. It's all in-house. And then I would use that for doing my processing instead. Okay. Do you know of any effective tools for practicing speaking, especially pronunciation? I don't, but two places that I would look. There's a site called There's an AI for that, and it's just a page of AI tools. And I think they've got like 15,000 different AI tools now. So there's an AI for that dot, I think, com. And it's just a giant list of thousands and thousands of AIs with a whole lot of descriptions. And so you could search there. Chat GPT, I mean, I haven't actually tried. Like it does. Those main models do have audio in and audio out, so I can talk to it. I've never really tried it on pronunciation. So yeah, really good question. Um, Kind of thing that's really great for being able to just jump off and experiment and find maybe Claude does a good job, maybe Gemini does a good job, maybe it's something else, maybe someone has built something specific. Yeah, maybe Duolingo will whack it in there instead of the stupid little bird that tells you you're a bad person for not doing your lectures. Okay. Um, Thanks so much, everyone. I suspect there might have been, there's an awful lot of text that has scrolled past. I'm certainly very happy to hang around for some more questions, even though we have gone past our official close time. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for being so interactive in the chat. Hopefully you learned something interesting today. Hopefully I was able to address at least some of the various things, and certainly very open to hearing about any suggestions for future AI and AI and education related topics. It's an area that I'm very passionate about, and I'm sure iSpring would be open to that as well. So yeah, slides and video will be available. If you had some desire to have the live version, I think in a few weeks I'm going to be doing one for the UK time zone, which will probably be kind of Australian evening time.
Yeah, Lyndon, thank you so much. That was truly great. I mean, so much practical information, and yeah, everyone in the chat would agree. So yeah, just a few things before we say goodbye. As a reminder, we will send the link to the recording of today's webinar to all of the participants, as well as the certificate. And please don't forget to share your feedback. We'll share the link to the survey right away in the chat, right? And it's really important for us. So please fill it out and you'll get an expert guide right away. Okay, so it's time to wrap up. I believe, Lyndon, thank you again for sharing all this helpful info with us and doing this just fantastic
My
presentation.
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this hour. We really hope you have enjoyed today's session. Yeah, and take care. We'll see you next time.